This is a nothing. Yes, did they play perfect? No, they still win. Yes.
What are you doing if the Celtics win the championship?
If the Celtics win championship, I might break my sobriety. I might act up.
We did it! You got him.
All the way.
Celtics versus Heat. Celtics in what?
4.
Celtics versus Knicks. Celtics in
4.
You got Celtics in 4? Hell yeah.
Use a vocab word from a couple years ago. It's mind-boggling.
That's it, GRG. Let's go. What do you think tonight?
You think I'm worried about the Warriors? I ain't worried about them.
Let's go, baby. 18, baby. Load up the boat.
Why would you say that?
Because
I'm not. No,
recently he's putting up games like.
Above our head for the players.
Literally right now.
But I think when Marcus, especially Marcus, when he got traded, I think that was a wake-up call.
You think right now
Rob,
it's still New York?
I do. And when I think of the Celtics dynasty, honestly, one of the first names that comes to my mind is actually Brad Stevens.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Celtics Talk Weekly postgame show. I am your host, Seamus Zarlingo. Alongside of me tonight, Andrew Quinn and Griffin Aldrich. Folks, you see the bottom of the screen. The Boston Celtics, they fend off elimination at the TD Garden 1 game after losing Jason Tatum for the foreseeable future and going down 3-1 to the New York Knicks in the 2025 Eastern Conference Semifinals. The Boston Celtics fend off elimination at home in Game 5 as the New York Knicks now lead the series 3-2, going back to Madison Square Garden for a crucial Game 6. The Celtics, they start out a little slow in this one. However, in the second half, they create the sea of green once again, and the Boston Celtics walk away with, quite frankly, one of their best wins of the entire NBA season, a 25-point win on the TD Garden floor, the parquet floor. The parquet was defended tonight, fellas. 127-102 by the Boston Celtics. But you guys know how we do it here on the Celtics Talk Weekly postgame show. Initial thoughts on this boisterous Celtics win. And let's face it, guys, the Luke Kornet game. The Luke Kornet game. We're going to term it that the rest of this postgame. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Andrew, we'll start with you.
I'm muted. I'm bad. I'm just happy to see that the team was able to rally together for Tatum, considering everything that this team has gone through in the past, 48 hours. What stands out, though, the most to me was our ability to adjust and our ability to move off the ball in this game, man. Just the ability to play together. We had guys, 4 or 5 guys all in double digits, and just our ability to move the ball, cut out the isolation play. But really, really what I liked the most was our fight and our intensity. It felt like we kind of got that dog back into us, that grittiness that we had last year. And I think if we can continue to kind of grasp onto that, I think we're in a good spot. And when you have that grittiness, when you have that fight, there's not a team in the world that you don't stand a chance against.
I want to say it before I get into my take. I know you might be waiting till later in the show to pull it up, but can you please pull up the graphic I'm looking for, Seamus? You know the one I'm talking about. Please pull it up.
Already?
I want to see it. I'm ready. Pull it up.
Already.
Here,
Let me. So early. It's so early, Griffin. But we're gonna do it because the fans.
It's
the Celtics fan base and Celtics Nation. They deserve it. They deserve it.
Basically, is a summary.
Here we go. Is this the graphic?
No
Griffin?
difference. I can't tell the difference.
Yeah, that's Luke Kornet right there.
Bring out the meme. Bring out the meme of. Do you? Here are 2 pictures. Right here are 2 pictures. Do you guys see a difference here? I don't see a difference. This was Luke Kornet tonight, folks. This was undoubtedly Luke Kornet. This is how Luke Kornet played for the Boston Celtics tonight. There was no tomorrow in Luke Kornet. Anybody else? I mean, you can speak for whoever it is out on the floor. For Luke Kornet, there was no tomorrow. And Griffin, the Celtics fan base, Celtics Nation, they deserve this one. You got to bring up the graphic. We got to bring up the graphic real quick here because this is the Luke Cornett game. Quite frankly, it just Luke Cornett saved this game for the Boston Celtics. And of course, anything you can say about this game, I mean, it kind of just filters all back down to just how big of an impact Luke Cornett made on this game. But Griffin, what were your initial thoughts on this game in its entirety, other than the fact that Luke Cornett, I mean, come on, he did give us that MJ No Tomorrow game tonight. That's a rarity from a guy like Luke Cornett. 8 minutes. We'll talk more about Luke Cornett later. I'll save some things on Luke Cornett here, but tonight this is the Luke Cornett game.
It was. Luke Cornett, obviously we'll get into it, but 7 blocks is unheard of. But I'm just going to say, where was this effort in the second half all series? I mean, come on. This is what we needed. Jaylen Brown impressed me so much. Him with that diving play, acting like an elimination game. I mean, you saw the Boston Celtics wanted it bad today. I feel like we should already be ready to face off against the Pacers in a picture perfect world. We would be off to face the Pacers right now with a healthy Jason Tatum. However, that's not the case. And, I'm feeling a lot more confident than I did earlier. I know how depressed and sad we've all been about losing our superstar, but this was a fun win. And I low-key wanted to post that picture of Jason Tatum and Derek White because I think Derek White knew something when he put on Jason Tatum's sleeves and everything. I think he knew that he had to fill the shoes of our superstar, because that he did tonight too. And we got to give credit to Derek White as well. He was a sniper out there from 3. But ultimately, I love how we just defended on the parquet. And it's still we gotta go one game at a time. We're focused on game 6 right now, but it's the possibility, can the Boston Celtics make a run without Jason Tatum? I mean, that's the thing that we can talk about right now and wonder, because this Boston Celtics team is talented. But on the other side, I'm looking at it, and we need a full team effort if we're going to want to compete with this New York Knicks team and bring it to 7 games. However, we can't have Porzingis out there with 12 minutes having 1 point, 1 rebound, and 1 block. That's just unacceptable. And I love Porzingis. I'm gonna say I'm one of his number 1 supporters. Like I'm up there on his list. Like I will say I back him up through thick and thin, but I don't know what's going on with him, and it's frustrating me. It really is. But ultimately, I thought this was a great win for the Boston Celtics, and I really wish that we could have done this game 1 and just dominated that second half, because right now we'd already be on the way to Indy and probably with the Jason Tatum. But there's no ifs and buts. We're faced now with a Jason Tatum-less Boston Celtics team. And look what happened. They stepped up to the task and they got the dub for Jason Tatum tonight. I mean, and it was a pretty game. We'll obviously see it when we go into the lead tracker, but the Boston Celtics, were in complete control in that second half, outscoring the Knicks 32-17. Just great defense and just being able to get Jalen Brunson out of the game. It was just incredible basketball, and it was fun to watch. And I'm telling you, 1 game at a time, but this Boston Celtics team can do something special. I'm telling you. Oh, Seamus.
I apologize here. I may be a little delayed here on the broadcast. We might need to refresh here at some point in time. I'm a little delayed. But common problem this season for anybody who's seen the post game show. Not too common, but common enough to know about it. Anyway, tonight's game was, I don't want to call it the win of the season, because let's face it, we've had great wins this season with everybody healthy and Jason Tatum healthy, and it was a much better time knowing, okay, well, we don't have everybody out of the lineup, and it's obviously you're not fending for this regular season. There were moments in which the game ended with everybody fully healthy. Now Jason Tatum is out of the lineup, and of course it's just a different vibe to this game and where the Celtics are going right now. However, I mean, it's up there with some of the best wins of the season, and maybe you could call it the win of the season. Maybe I'm underselling it just a little bit, because this is a game where a lot of people doubted the Celtics in because of the circumstances, what happened in Game 4, what happened to Jason Tatum at the end of Game 4, and we obviously know the Celtics in this series, they've been able to go up double digits quite a few times. I mean, they've been up double digits. They've had a 14 plus point lead in every single game this series. And not only in every single game, but every single, not fourth quarter, third quarter in this series. So every single third quarter in this series, the Celtics have seen a 14 plus point lead. And it was no different tonight. The Celtics, they put up that lead in the second half, and they really started to run ahead of the Knicks in that third quarter. And then, of course, the fourth quarter was just this, the sea of green just went haywire, as we see here on this lead tracker tonight. The Celtics dominated the second half, 28 points, the largest lead of the night for the Boston Celtics. And you see the Knicks, this was a different game than we've seen this series. Most of these games in this series have been Celtics, they control early, they grab early leads, and then you see the Knicks come back in games. Well, this game, it was the Knicks. It felt like for a certain moment there in the beginning of the second quarter, it felt like the Knicks were actually going to run away with this game. And the Celtics, they came out hot. Derek White, he started 4 of 4 from 3, scored 14 of the first 18 Celtics points. And it felt like, oh, the Celtics, they start out hot, but once they eventually succumbed to some of the variance within their shooting in this game, and it felt like the Knicks, they started to shoot well at a certain point in time. It felt like the Knicks were about to run away with the game, but the Celtics, they shut that down in the second quarter. They finish off the first half well. It's tied at halftime, and then of course in that third quarter, the Celtics, they go ahead and surmount themselves a lead that they never lose. I mean, look, that sea of green is very evident there in the second half, and really this was just a gutty win by the Celtics overall, because the Celtics, nobody gave them a chance coming into tonight other than the odds market, of course. So the odds market, the Celtics were actually favored tonight. However, in terms of just the discussion inside the NBA community, a lot of people were not giving the Celtics much of a chance to win this game because of the injury to Jason Tatum, because of how Game 4 ended, and not only because of how Game 4 ended, but because of how Games 1 and 2 ended at home. It was Celtics. It doesn't matter if they have a 20-point lead, a 15-point lead. The Knicks are going to be confident they can win the game, regardless of what happens with the Boston Celtics and how much of a lead they put up in the first three quarters. If the Knicks are within range in that fourth quarter, they're going to be striking the Celtics. And ultimately in this game, the Celtics actually put it out of reach in that fourth quarter, and that's been the theme of the two games in which the Celtics have won this series. Is in that fourth quarter, instead of seeing, oh, the Knicks, so they cut it to 10 or they cut it to single digits, the Celtics, they put it at 20, and they even put it above 20. I mean, if you look at that lead tracker, the Celtics, they were up by 28, and that was late in the fourth quarter. So they just kept adding to their lead. And then, of course, the shooting tonight for the Celtics, that was obviously something that, I mean, all series long, it's been if the Celtics shoot well, they have a better chance than if they don't. I mean, that's just going to be the obvious point here. But tonight, the Celtics from 3-point land in the entirety of the game tonight, they were, I believe this is, this is the Knicks. I was like, there's no way the Celtics took 33s tonight. I was like, the Knicks are 12 of 30. Tonight, the Celtics, 22 3-pointers made tonight for the C's, 22 of 49. That's 44.9%. Felt like early in the game, it felt like there was a lot of shot chucking from the C's. Derek White was taking long threes. Peyton Pritchard didn't have the best of nights, but he was 5 of 14 from 3, 6 of 17 overall. It was 1 of 3 inside the 3-point arc. But it just felt like there were a lot of long threes taken early on, a lot of quick rushed possessions. But it felt like the Celtics really settled into this game at a certain point in time, and they were actually taking good shots. And that's what the difference is between what the Celtics looked like in games 1, 2, and 4 versus games 3 and 5. Games 3 and 5, the Celtics got the shots in which they wanted to, and it felt like their offense was working at a more methodical rate, and it was actually working at a rate in which it didn't feel like guys were panicking. It didn't feel like guys were rushed. And it felt like we were just getting the opportunities. We were taking advantage of the opportunities in which the Knicks gave us in this game. And that would be the Celtics, of course. Talking about we and us and blah, blah, blah. It's the Celtics. But you see on the offensive end of the floor, it was just a much more collective effort. I mean, last game, I know Jason Tatum, he goes out of the lineup. You can praise him for so many things, but there were some bad habits going on with Tatum and Brown playing together. And it's not necessarily talking about the big sample size of themselves. I'm not saying, oh, Tatum and Brown don't work as a duo, but I mean, they were the culprits of shot chucking last game in game 4 and even in games 1 and 2. And Tatum had that great efficient game in game 4, but games 1 and 2 wasn't quite efficient, and he took 28 shots in game 4. He was efficient with those 28 shots, but he was the bulk of the offense. Tonight, you see 16 shots for Derek White, 17 for Peyton Pritchard, 17 for Jaylen Brown. Al Horford, he takes more shots. He takes 7 shots. Of course, Porzingis, we got to get to him later. I don't know what's going on. He didn't start the second half, and he didn't play the entire second half. Only 12 minutes tonight for Kristaps Porzingis. We'll get into him later. But Drew Holiday, more shots tonight, 8 shot attempts for Drew Holiday. Luke Cornett, perfect 5 of 5 from the floor. We'll certainly get into more conversation with him. And then Hauser, he came back into the lineup after dealing with his ankle injury. He takes 5 shot attempts. And then you look, Torrey Craig. I mean, Torrey Craig had a small stint tonight other than garbage time, just a very small stint. He was in there, and then the garbage time crew as well. You just look at some of the collective shot attempts here. It's not as lopsided as we saw with Tatum in the lineup, and that's not saying, oh, Jason Tatum, oh, he ruined this offense. No, Jason Tatum very much was saving this offense at a certain point in time, but just was the volume of shots and the decision making of when to take those shots. Was it all good at every moment? I would say definitely not. And tonight, that's what kind of changed for the Celtics is a lot of their shot attempts felt like they were coming on wide open possessions where the defense, you're breaking down the defense if you're the Celtics, and you're getting a good look, whether it's from a Luke Cornett dive to the rim on a pick and roll, and then the ball's kicked out to the perimeter, and Holiday's getting an open 3, or Derek White is getting an open 3, or Al Horford's getting an open 3. There were quite a few threes tonight taken off the dribble. Don't get me wrong. I think it got, especially early in the game, guys were chucking up some shots, but I just felt like there was a more methodical nature to the offense, especially in the second half. And we saw ball handlers such as Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard. I mean, Luke Cornett tonight, just absolutely fantastic. 5 of 5 out there. And I don't know how you can't, if you're Joe Mazzulla, I don't know how you're not playing Cornett over Porzingis in game 6. Porzingis, I think, sits on the bench and Cornett starts in game 6 because Cornett was phenomenal tonight. And we're going to get into his defense later, but just offensively, 5 of 5 from the floor. And it just felt like he was doing all the little Cornett things that we've seen all season long that we've been pretty vocal on this program about. We're a little confused as to why it's not happening more so in the playoffs at different times. And maybe that goes along more so with the conversation of Joe Mazzulla than anything else. But Cornett, I mean, he's been a force with the Celtics this season. Offensive rebounding, put back opportunities, just the timing of his screens, the solidness of his screens, and just his ability to know when to roll, and just he's such a savvy basketball player, and all the little detailed areas of the game. Defensively, he's always in the right position, giving a lot of effort. He's a shot deterrer. He's a certified shot blocker, as we saw tonight. A career high 7 rebounds, or sorry, not 7 rebounds, 7 blocks, folks. 7 rebounds. Forget that. He's 9 rebounds for Cornett tonight. 7 blocks for Luke Cornett. 7 blocks tonight for Luke Cornett. And you just see he's that player out on the floor. The Celtics should be utilizing more than they have in this playoff run so far, particularly Joe Mazzulla and the coaching staff. But you just look at, aside from the individual performances in this game, I mean, you just have the entire team. The points in the paint battle, the Knicks doubled up the Celtics last game. It was 64-32. Tonight, it's 36-26 in favor of the Celtics. And fast break points, the Celtics won there 9-4. Not a huge discrepancy, but just the fact that the Celtics prevented the Knicks from getting out on the fast break and
you have to imagine like
there.
they took better shots, right? So that's going to lead to less long, rebounds where the Knicks can get out into transition, right?
Exactly.
Like it just slowed down the Knicks' opportunities, and it made the Knicks have to try to work harder for their shots. And while the Celtics, on the other hand, created easier shots, we kind of flipped it today, and that's why we saw success.
And we flipped other categories too, such as the rebounding category. Last game, I mean, the Celtics were completely dominated in rebounds. Tonight, the Celtics actually win the rebounding battle, 44 to 40.
Great, man.
And I felt like relatively the Celtics kept, they kept Mitchell Robinson and Towns off the glass for the most part of what they've been able to do in this series. I mean, tonight Towns only 8 rebounds. Robinson 13 rebounds, actually 6 offensive rebounds. So somehow, some way, Robinson actually grabbed more offensive rebounds tonight than he did last game. But it just didn't feel the same. Didn't feel the same tonight as it did in Game 4. Just felt like Game 4 he was just murdering us on the boards. Tonight it didn't feel as egregious out there.
It felt like today, like guys, like the Celtics' entire team was crashing the glass on the defensive end. It was more of a team rebounding effort rather than just like, say, Porzingis or Connett or Orford again kind of left down there. Like we were all crashing. We were boxing on the perimeter and then crashing the glass every single time. There just seemed like there's a more concerted effort for rebounding, and it obviously shows. It obviously shows.
And another point to all this, and another point is just to the Celtics' ability to, talk about those long rebounds. It also shows the good shot attempts tonight, the assist number. 27 assists for the Celtics tonight on 44 made attempts. 27 assists on 44 made attempts. That's a pretty good number compared to some of the assist numbers we've been seeing as of late. I mean, the Celtics, look, 27 assists tonight, that's upwards of nearly 30. That's where you want to be as a basketball team. Typically in the NBA is upwards of 30 in a game, because you're typically looking at 40, 50 shots made within a game. And 50 on a pretty good night, on a high volume night. But then the Knicks, on the other hand, 17 assists on 29 field goals made tonight. It just felt like for the Knicks, it wasn't as connected of an effort as it felt like for the Celtics tonight. And I just think there's a lot of categories in which the Celtics, they flipped. And it was not only in just some of the individual performances, such as, the collective coming to the rescue for the Celtics. It wasn't just, Tatum and Brown. Obviously, we're not going to have Tatum for quite some time, but it's usually Tatum and Brown. It's Tatum and Brown, Tatum and Brown. Tonight, it felt like it was a little bit more collected. Even Peyton Pritchard, I know he didn't shoot the ball well tonight. However, he did have some timely shots at some timely moments. He did have 3 assists tonight. And I'll even bring this up. Jaylen Brown, 26 points, 8 rebounds, 12 assists. That's a career high for Jaylen Brown. 12 assists. He's going to be the guy next season, and this is the first game in which Jaylen Brown gets to present and showcase himself as the guy without Jason Tatum. And he comes up with a career high in assists, both playoffs and regular season, 12 tonight. And it again just embodies and symbolizes the Celtics playing a different style of ball tonight and flipping many categories on the floor that they needed to in order to win this ball game and even win more games moving into the future. I mean, the Ewing theory is very alive right now, folks. The Ewing theory is, once your best star player goes out, your team actually starts playing better. Tonight, I'll say this. The Celtics aren't better without Tatum, but can they sometimes play better without Tatum? Sure, we saw it in Phoenix earlier this year when Jason Tatum goes down with the ankle injury. The Celtics win the next game by 30 against the Suns. Now the Suns were some sorry ass bums at that point in time, unfortunately, at that point in the season. I know these guys contractually aren't, but just from a basketball standpoint, they were in the season. The Suns, they were terrible, but at the same time, 30-point win. A 30-point win is a 30-point win on the road, especially on the West Coast, the way the Celtics did it. And that was without Jason Tatum. And it's not to say this Celtics team can't achieve some of that Ewing theory in this series. They so far have with this game tonight, 25-point win at home, 127 to 102 at the Garden. But just from your guys' perspective, what were some of the biggest factors in this game for the Celtics to actually go ahead and pull this out over the Knicks? What were some of the biggest factors playing to the advantage of the Celtics tonight? Andrew, we'll start with you.
Griffin, you take it away. It looks like you got something to say. You go first.
No, I just gotta say, I think that game at the Suns was at Phoenix was just incredible. But I gotta pull up this comment. I died laughing when I saw that. Sorry.
We also do have some. We do have some comments here. Hold up. We have
interesting comments.
So
we have
neutered is a
we
crazy.
have some comments. Just First of all, here's some of just showing some Franco love here. Franco
Yep,
had
we
a
gotta
couple of
give-
comments. Franco will not be on the post game tonight, but he had some initial thoughts. And he shared this to us earlier. But I'm saying, as this series goes along, Kevin Millar said it, don't let us get one. I mean, the Knicks let the Celtics get one in this series, and now
the pressure's
the floodgates
on
are kind of open. I mean, game 6 at MSG, if you win game 6 at MSG, if you're the Celtics, I mean, all bets off for game 7. If you get to that game 7 at home, if you're the C's, I mean, that is going to be something else. That is, I mean, that's a game the Celtics can undoubtedly win. Now, the Knicks will be probably playing with a little bit more fire in that game, but if the Celtics, if they win that next game at MSG, I mean, it's just at this point in time, it's in every game is an elimination game for the Celtics. I mean, it's every game is the Celtics fighting for their life. I mean, that's what it is every single night. And it's not it's not out of the realm of possibilities that the Celtics team wins the next game in MSG too. I mean, the Celtics team, I know we don't have Tatum, but it's not as if the Celtics aren't talented. It's not as if the Celtics are not talented.
And I mean, I don't think they can get the benefit though because they have that talent, so it should be competitive. But it's like you lost your star player. Now you're kind of just playing with a chip on your shoulder, and you're also playing with like nothing to lose, right? So Knicks have everything to lose right now. Celtics have a little less to lose right now, considering kind of how things have played out. So it's like how can they use that to their advantage? And they just came out tonight with a different attitude, with a different, I already said grit. Like I can use a bunch of different adjectives to kind of describe it, but you guys can fill in the blanks. But they just really seem to have this kind of deep drive in them. But then I also want to say from like a scheme perspective, like they really played offensively like some of the best basketball I think I've seen in a while just from their offensive perspective because there wasn't that isolation ball, right? And there were so many more actions off ball where we had the opportunity for slipping, for slips to the basket. There was down screens. There was curls coming off the basket. There was one down screen for Pritchard where he actually came up the gut to the top of the key. He didn't get any action out of it. But it's just like to see that movement put so much more pressure on the Knicks that it really forces the Knicks, once again, I said it in previous post games, it forces them to be way more, forces them in rotation, forces them to talk. And when you have to talk, there's an opportunity for mistakes to happen, right? And it just opens up lanes. It opens up free opportunities for the Celtics to get easier buckets, making it just those easy buckets are so important, and they just allow the Celtics to kind of flow through the offense rather than working for every bucket that they have to get. And I also think, when you're not in isolation and you get guys the ball and there's more rhythm to the offense, you're going to see guys' production and they're going to start knocking down more shots because they have the ball in their hands more. They have more opportunities. There's more rhythm to the offense. When you have rhythm, there's more flow to it. There's more opportunities to knock down shots. So I think that is such a important. Yep, I agree with that one. That is a great quote. Shout out to Bee Gees. Staying alive. I love it. Hope we get to hear another game 7. We get to hear what's that? What do they play at the very end of when they win? Oh, you should be dancing.
Geno time.
You should be dancing, baby.
Yeah, Geno time.
But
Geno time.
yes, sir.
That we
Geno
need to
time,
implement
baby.
that more into the program next year. Just like we just need a Geno time segment every time we.
I agree. We always need a little Geno time segment. But I mean it though. It's like when you're not dribbling in isolation and you get guys moving off ball, there's so much more space and there's just a rhythm to an offense where you can just get back on defense and you can just flow into it rather than every single time it feels like we're stuck in the mud. And that's what I saw tonight. And I'm very happy with that adjustment. And if we can replicate that, I mean, I really like our chances moving forward.
Yeah, I just want to say, you summed it up beautifully right there, just from a basketball perspective too. I think the thing that I love the most and value that the Boston Celtics did tonight is it was just beautiful team basketball. I mean, we've only seen this a couple of times this season where they were so I want to call it, you guys are going to laugh at this word I'm going to use, but majestic on offense. You know, they really were. Like, you look at back at that Knicks game opening night. I think that was probably the best basketball we played all season because, you know, ring night and we are all flowing, the whole team. But I also look back at, you know, that night in Phoenix where the game was just going our way. And then tonight it was just the same thing. And it was, all right, we don't have to just shoot threes. We could attack in the paint too. And we were getting rebounds, which I love to see because the thing that has frustrated me this playoffs is the lack of effort on the glass. And tonight, I think we did a pretty good job.
It's been all season for me, Griffin. It's been all season for me.
I will say all
I feel like,
yeah, no.
and that's where we
I feel like this team feels as if they don't. That's one of the characteristics of the Celtics. When you make a point of, oh, does this team just feel like they deserve it? You look at the rebounding category every single game, and it's not necessarily within the numbers; it's within the film. It's how hard are they crashing the glass? That's such an effort category within the game of basketball. Yes, there are some freak rebounds that can go here, there, or another, but most of the time it's effort when it comes to the glass. And yes, mismatches matter as well, but the Celtics, their physicality, their length, all of the rebounders, like the known rebounders on the team, they were not as good of a rebounding team this season as they should have been. That's one of the categories you look at every time you want to make the point of, oh, do the Celtics, do they feel like they deserve something, or do they have a little bit of a championship hangover? Do they, kind of, do they want people to kneel down and kiss the ring? One of the biggest categories you can bring up with the team is rebounding every single time.
Can I say, and we've been talking a lot about this, like potential moves this offseason. If they're going to make they need to get someone who can fight on the glass, because that's what they need. But ultimately, I love what I saw tonight. It just looked like, and I say this, Jaylen Brown, I don't know why this stuck out to me so much, but that dive he had to save that ball, that's playoff basketball. That's how you should be playing every single game. You should be giving it 100% effort and some. We even look at Josh Hart and his face all cut up, looked like Porzingis out there tonight. But you even look at him, that's playoff basketball. That's what I want to see the Boston Celtics put out there every night, and I could go on a little tangent about how we should have won, how we should already be facing Indiana right now. But I look at it and I'm like, all right, can we still give that effort? Can we still give that heart and put everything we have on display these next two games? Can we bring this back and make this a series? That's what I look at. But tonight, again, very impressed. And I just one game at a time, but I hope we keep doing it.
Yeah, I honestly don't.
You mentioned Josh Hart. You mentioned Josh Hart, Griffin, and playoff basketball. And we're gonna bring up real quick what you're talking about here for the fan base to understand, because hey, sometimes people pop on the post game, they don't see the entire game, they don't see the images of the game, right? We can't bring film to the game, but we can bring images to people, right? That's what we can do here on the Celtics Talk Weekly post game show.
I do got
There you go. That's playoff basketball right there, baby. Josh Hart, all bloodied. We had Porzingis in round 1, now Josh Hart in round 2. And this one is maybe it's an NSFW, not safe for work. I don't know. Too much blood for people here. I'm not really certain. But that's playoff basketball. That's what it looks like.
That's why we play the game. That's why we play the game right there, man. That's all about it. I love it.
So there you go. Oh, and Griffin.
Griffin,
I guess is out on the town. He's out on the town right now. Okay, here we go. So thank you, Griffin, of course, here tonight, joining our program. But just me and you, Andrew, now. It's just me and you. After game 5, the Celtics take a not 3-2 series lead. The Knicks take a 3-2 series lead. But I do want to get into here, I think our biggest story of the night, quite frankly, just maybe the biggest story of the No, not the biggest story of the playoffs. Maybe the biggest positive story of the playoffs for the Celtics. Negative story-wise, I think we know which one that is. But
yeah, well,
a big positive story for the Celtics tonight was, of course, Mr. Luke Cornett, our player spotlight, our SeatGeek player spotlight tonight. Luke Cornett, of course, SeatGeek. Use code Celtics Weekly at checkout of your first purchase at SeatGeek for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. SeatGeek has us all covered for all the best seats in sports. And of course, game 6 at MSG coming up, game 7 maybe at the TD Garden coming up as well. Who knows? But SeatGeek will have us covered for both of those games as well as they do tonight. They have us covered for player spotlight, which was Luke Cornett in game 5 versus the New York Knicks. 10 points, 9 rebounds, 7 blocks. No, folks, that is not a typo. 7 blocks for Luke Cornett tonight. 1 assist for Luke Cornett. 5 of 5 from the floor. A perfect 5 of 5 shooting from Luke Cornett. 100% out on the floor tonight. 1 steal and a plus 20 in the plus minus category. So Luke Cornett having himself really a career night in the NBA playoffs and an elimination game for the Boston Celtics. You could not have scripted this one up any better for Luke Cornett. And I'll even mention after last game, Luke Cornett, he played 8 minutes, grabbed 0 rebounds. It felt like after last game, his contract status in this offseason was maybe potentially up in the air. However, after tonight, Luke Cornett, I think he saved himself some money. Luke Cornett had
For sure.
the performance of his career, and you can see that within some of the numbers here for Luke Cornett. Luke Cornett's 5 blocks in the third quarter were the most he's had in any quarter of his career, regular season or playoffs. And then, of course, Luke Cornett recorded a career high 7 blocks tonight. 7. That is not a typo, folks. 7 blocks tonight for Luke Cornett. And his last one was a pretty boisterous block out on the perimeter. I believe it was on Josh Hart. And Josh Hart goes to shoot a 3, and Luke Cornett puts up his palm and just blocks the shot, much like Robert Williams. It was very similar to a Robert Williams type of play. But Robert Williams, speaking of him, most blocks in a playoff game for the Celtics. Robert Williams, 9. I'm guessing that was in 2022, most likely. Maybe 2021, but likely 2022. 9 for Robert Williams. That's the record in Celtics franchise history for most blocks in a playoff game. But Luke Cornett, look, he's sitting there tied for second with Kendrick Perkins and Robert Parrish, Chief Robert Parrish down there with 7 as well. So Luke Cornett putting himself into some elite Celtics categories tonight. And of course, this as well. Luke Cornett is the first player in NBA playoff history with at least 10 points, 9 rebounds, 7 blocks, and the first player to ever shoot 100% from the field as well in a game. So Luke Cornett doing it all for the Boston Celtics tonight. And of course, we brought up this graphic earlier. This was Luke Cornett. This was how Luke Cornett was feeling in game 5. In an elimination game scenario for the Celtics, this was how Luke Cornett was feeling. And it's very much deserved to give Luke Cornett flowers and his praise tonight, because Luke Cornett, I mean, come on. This was a big time performance out of Cornett. You could not have scripted it up any better after Cornett's performance in game 4. It just wasn't, I felt like Cornett wasn't playing enough minutes really in this series, period. But in the minutes in which he was playing, I mean, he wasn't necessarily making a massive impact. There were moments where he wasn't grabbing rebounds. Last game, I mean, he played 8 minutes last game, came up with 0 rebounds. Yet tonight comes up with 9 rebounds, 10 points, 7 blocks. And he played a good majority of the game, because Kristaps Porzingis, he goes out, only plays 12 minutes, doesn't play the second half. However, you have Luke Cornett. He comes in, plays 25 and a half minutes tonight, 25-38 for the Celtics. And then in the second half, it was much bigger for Luke Cornett. It was 19:08 of that came in the second half. And it was just massive. Luke Cornett was absolutely massive on both ends of the floor. It felt like he brought another layer to the Celtics offense tonight. And then defensively, I mean, the 7 blocks, the deterring of the shots on the defensive end of the floor for Luke Cornett. Not only that, but just his positioning. I thought his effort was just through the roof as well tonight.
Yeah.
And this is just a perfect game for Cornett, because last game it really felt like, he might have, this playoff run, it could have costed Luke Cornett a couple of dollars in the future, knowing his contract status this summer. He'll be a free agent, one of the Celtics' few free agents this summer. And he could have cost himself a couple of dollars this playoff run, knowing, okay, he didn't really make as much of an impact in the playoffs as he did the regular season. However, Luke Cornett tonight proved I'm not just a regular season player. I am a certified playoff player who should be playing more than he's played this series. I mean, 19 minutes in the second half, but then of course for the game, 25 minutes, which means he only went 6 minutes deep in the first half there. I think Luke Cornett is making a case certainly that he sees more time on the floor in game 6 and even in the future for another team to give him a contract. I mean, this game, it's both good and bad for Luke Cornett and the Celtics. It's good, obviously, for the moment where the Celtics now they fend off elimination and Luke Cornett has a moment at the TD Garden and gives the crowd and the fan base a feel good moment after what happened to Jason Tatum and what happened to the team in Game 4. But I'll point it out, this game could have just certified Luke Cornett as somebody who gets paid this summer, and maybe Luke Cornett's dollar amount in which he makes, it might have just surpassed a level the Celtics are actually they actually have the ability to pay this summer. Now they could they can ink Cornett to any type of deal they want because you can re-sign your own free agents no matter what the cap situation is. However, regardless of that, Luke Cornett, if he made himself a couple extra $1 million tonight, that could play a huge factor in the Celtics' ability to keep Cornett or not. Regardless, I mean, this is a career game, a career night for Luke Cornett, and what he did in this occasion was just, I mean, to me, it was typical Luke Cornett type of stuff. It was come in, do all the little things, do all the little dirty things that you don't always see in basketball, such as the screening, the boxing out, the putting back of balls into the rim, and just on the defensive end of the floor, always being in the right spots and giving full effort. Cornett was just phenomenal tonight, and there's been occasions where he's been this phenomenal throughout the regular season. And it just felt like in the playoffs, we hadn't seen that at all yet tonight, Cornett, you could make a case. He literally saved the season for the Boston Celtics. Literally saved the season.
He did on the biggest stage too. You know what I mean? It's just it's amazing to see, and it's cool to see someone that can step up in those moments. You know, Cornett, we can talk about his stats tonight. Like he had, an amazing 7 blocks, making history tonight. He went for he didn't miss from the field, but it's got to be the effort that he gives the Celtics, like that extra juice that he provides. His ability to stay positive the entire game, to not look to the rest for complaints, but to just put his head down and do the dirty work that any team needs. That's where it stands out today for me. And his ability to crash the glass, his ability to, there was a ball going out of the bounds, and he didn't die for it, but he made an effort to keep it in. Like those little things are what allow a team to win games. But then just offensively, his ability to really put pressure on the defense, like we said in the podcast earlier, right? Like there needs to be another layer to the Celtics offense. It just can't be knocking down threes. Like you have to be able to counter you have to be able to counter your main move, right? There has to be other layers to it. And so Cornett diving to the rim every single time is putting pressure on the defense. It's making them collapse. And then you have kickouts. I feel like there's a lot more skips today, like across court to players than they can attack closeouts, right? So it just added a whole nother layer that the Knicks couldn't really, they had to deal with and they had to defend. And when you have those two layers, you can kind of mix and match, go back and forth with it, and really just play around with it. So it just gives the Celtics a lot more versatility on the offensive end. So I like what Cornett did, and I just liked how he stepped up and his energy and his effort and everything in between. And, we're going to talk about it. I know we are, but it's like this guy should have been getting his minutes, man, earlier on. Like when you have a team that's struggling to give you effort, when you have a team that's struggling to not really provide that extra, grit, toughness, you got to go to your bench and just be like, hey, you guys sit down. I don't care if you're a star. Sit down, figure it out, look at yourself in the mirror, and let's see what these guys can produce, right? And then if they produce, if a bench player like Cornette produces, then you say, see what he did? That's what you need to do. That you need to go match that because he's a bench player. He's not getting all the minutes, but he's still locked in. He's still engaged, and he's willing to give it all. There needed to be more of a foot down saying, you guys are not doing what we need to do. We're going to give other guys some minutes and see what they can do. And I've had coaches across my entire life that have done that, and that's unfortunate. Unfortunately, it wasn't done. And now maybe Cornette could have gave us a win in a different series. I mean, in a different game. But now they're sitting in this position that's, it's a tough mountain to climb. Can they do it? Of course. And I think Cornette's going to be a big part of that as we move forward.
Yeah, I think he starts in game 6. I don't see a scenario where he doesn't because
you have to.
Kristaps Porzingis is definitely not. I mean, I'm sorry, Kristaps Porzingis. He might be done as a Celtic. He might be straight up done
agree.
as a Celtic at this point in time. We'll get into that in a little bit here, but Luke Cornette just hit his. To me, there are so many things about this team right now that, unfortunately, huge indictments to Joe Mazzulla because to me, Luke Cornette, the usage of Luke Cornette so far in these playoffs, forget this series, just this playoff run, first against the Magic and then now against the New York Knicks. I mean, his usage of Luke Cornette has been absolutely hellacious, and as well as the bench, because I understand you're trying to shorten your rotations come playoff time, and you're giving guys like Tatum and Brown and most of the starting lineup 40-plus minutes, and you're really shortening your rotation if you're any team. But at a certain point, I mean, tonight was the tipping point of Porzingis and Cornette. Now we're looking at something that is so clear that somehow, some way, our $30 million starting center, and Kristaps Porzingis, former All-Star, he's being outplayed by Luke Cornette, who's coming off the bench with a minimum. And sometimes it's easy to get caught up in status. It's easy to get caught up in contracts, how much a player is owed. But those numbers don't really mean anything when it comes to what is put on film. And tonight, Luke Cornette put a lot more on film for us to feel confident about him being the starting center moving forward than Kristaps Porzingis. And I'm not talking necessarily about long-term future, but just for this series. No. I mean, right now, Kristaps Porzingis, whether it's health-related or just simply he's not playing well, he can't slot in over Luke Cornette. Luke Cornette came in tonight and changed the game. 7 blocks, and just his liveliness.
Yeah, and I was
Luke
going to say
Cornette's liveliness on both ends.
It's not just the stats. It's just day in and day out what Cornette is going to give you from an effort standpoint. And obviously, Porzingis is dealing with some illness, some sickness, but that still doesn't matter. When Cornette's on that floor, he may not give you all the stats. He might not fill out the entire, the box score, but he's going to give you that effort, that toughness. He's going to provide those winning plays that unfortunately Porzingis is just not right now. And you can't kind of fumble it around and think, oh, maybe Porzingis is going to give it to you, because you've given him those chances so far. We've tried multiple times to see if he can kind of recuperate from his injury, his illness, and he hasn't, right? So it's like we talked about on the other podcast. Repeating things. It's what's the quote? The definition of insanity is like repeating things over and over again when things don't work. Like it's to that point where we have to move on. And we have to give Cornette a shot, and we just got to throw our chips in Cornette right now.
Yeah, and Cornette, at some point in time, you have to look at it and go, what is put on film right now is just, there is a stark difference between Porzingis and Cornette. And it's a stark difference in terms of their just agility. I mean, when Cornette is out on the floor, he is everywhere. I mean, he is cutting to the basket with great effectiveness. I mean, on the defensive end of the floor, he's always in the right positions. I mean, active hands on that end and pressure on that end of the floor where he can put it on a defense. Obviously, he's not going to be somebody who's defending on ball on the perimeter, but when somebody drives into Cornette, what kind of resistance is he bringing in those moments? Porzingis in this series, I mean, he got cooked. I mean, he was cooked on the defensive end of the floor. Yeah, some of the best highlights, some of the best layup highlights of the New York Knicks series, this series against the Celtics, have been against Porzingis. It's Jalen Brunson running him around like Bob Cousy and then making a little move on him, a little back and forth move, and then taking him under the hole and going reverse layup on him. Same thing with Josh Hart. It's like, oh, taking him all the way under the hole and then whoop, going right. Josh Hart, both Josh Hart and Brunson, they bring him around like they're damn Bob Cousy, and then they turn the other way, and then all of a sudden they have a reverse layup,
He's
and
lost.
Porzingis can't recover to them, and he can't stay in front of those guys. And it's just unfortunate to see where Porzingis' play has gone this playoffs, because he was obviously somebody the Celtics were banking on to play particularly well in the playoffs, especially now with Jason Tatum out of the lineup. It's like, okay, well, at least you do have some other star power here, and that includes Kristaps Porzingis. However, tonight, I mean, 12 minutes on the floor, didn't play the second half, and then Luke Cornett comes out playing the way he does. And Luke Cornett, it's just the simple things. It's the agility, the liveliness, the energy, just also the multi-layered offensive system that Luke Cornett brings. That Luke Cornett, this is kind of again another indictment for Joe Mazzulla, unfortunately. I think Luke Cornett, he used to be a good shooting big. I
That
feel
too,
like he
yeah.
can be used in multiple ways on the offensive end of the floor. It doesn't make any sense to me how Tillman didn't play this season because of not being able to shoot the ball, but Luke Cornett can shoot the ball, but he literally never does, yet can
Nothing.
still play out on the floor. I just feel like there's another level to Luke Cornett that we're not tapping into, or Joe Mazzulla and the coaching staff just isn't really tapping into at this point in time. Luke Cornett is on the offensive end of the floor specifically is quite a player to watch for the Celtics, because he is always, to me, in the right action. He's always slipping at the right times. He's always setting the screens at the right angles, and he just knows where to be on the offensive end of the floor based on the movement of the offense. And what he was so good at too in the regular season, and both him and Holiday were very good at this, is just moving guys off ball, realizing, oh, when an action is going on, on the strong side, I can
Right.
make this movement, this cut to the rim on the weak side to draw this guy over on help. And then all of a sudden, oh, if Jaylen Brown or Tatum or whoever is driving and this guy's over on help on Luke Cornett, it's like, oh, and here are the multiple options, right? It's like, oh, you have a corner three right here. And if this guy comes over, it's like, oh, you have a dump down to Luke Cornett. Cornett and
Dive,
Holiday
yeah.
are just two of the best guys at doing that on the Celtics, particularly off ball, just slipping to the rim at the right times and just really filling the space on the offensive end of the floor, and not only filling the space, but doing it in a strategic manner to move the
Right.
defense from one side of the floor to the other. And Cornett, that's just what, to me, every time Cornett's out there, that's the extra layer he brings to the Celtics offense, is just that savviness on that end of the floor, knowing where to be and knowing how to specifically manipulate a defense while off ball. There's obviously we talk a lot about, specifically Tatum and Brown, their manipulation of a defense with the ball in their hands, but you can also do it as an off-ball player as well. And that's what Luke Cornett and particularly Holiday, they just do so well on this team. And that's what Luke Cornett showcased yet again tonight. It just felt like the offense was different when he was out there on the floor. And in the third quarter, I mean, it was very evident. The third quarter was the best quarter for the Celtics by far. I mean, that third quarter, the Celtics, first, just looking at some general stats, the Knicks were outscored 17-32 in that third quarter. So the Celtics win that third quarter 32-17. And then the shooting, just 8 of 18 from the Celtics in that third quarter, 4 of 20 for the Knicks, 4 of 20. But Luke Cornett, we're really focusing on him right now. Luke Cornett was 2 of 2 in that third quarter, 12 minutes played. All 12 minutes in that third quarter. So he started the quarter, ended the quarter for the Celtics. 4 defensive rebounds, 1 offensive rebound, 5 rebounds total, 5 blocks in that third quarter, 4 points as well.
Ridiculous.
And he was a plus 15, Luke Cornett was, in the third quarter. And that's where it felt like the Celtics were just taking off. And I know I was talking about Luke Cornett's offense in that regard, but you can see defensively too. I mean, just 4 of 20 from the Knicks on their side of things offensively, and Luke Cornett comes up with 5 blocks in that third quarter. It's just the fact that Luke Cornett was able to add that extra layer offensively on top of what he did defensively tonight. I mean, this was a true two-way performance by Luke Cornett. And it's just one of those performances where you go, man, I mean, 10, 9, and 7. And you get caught up in the statuses and the names and the contracts. It's like, oh, here's Luke Cornett. He's not the most stylish white guy in the world. He's not. He's this he's making a minimum and his status just isn't very high in the league yet. I mean, this is a dominant performance Luke Cornett had tonight, especially in that third quarter. And it was just on both ends of the floor. And he was doing it in very meticulous little ways. And that's just what makes his game so impressive for the Celtics team, is that he doesn't have to be a massive presence in a game to really affect it. But tonight, I mean, he was both a massive presence at certain times, obviously within the blocks category, especially in that third quarter with 5 blocks. But just in doing all the little things tonight, Luke Cornett was just absolutely phenomenal. There's no other way to put it. Luke Cornett,
No, there really
he
isn't.
had a career game. This was his best. Luke Cornett tonight in game 5 of the 2025 Eastern Conference Semifinals, a game after Jason Tatum goes out of the lineup. The Celtics drop a big game 4 at MSG to go down 3-1. Luke Cornett comes up with the best performance of his entire career.
That's in a game you can't ignore.
That's something.
Yeah, a game you just cannot ignore, considering who Cornett is. So it's impressive, and we got to utilize him more. I was thinking about it too. I don't know if you guys saw when I threw my hands up, but I was like, and it sucks right now that Porzingis isn't healthy, but like, imagine a little, you too big lineup, kind of Porzingis, Cornett in there, and you run a little, high ball, like pick and roll action. You get like a roll, you get Cornett diving, you got Porzingis popping, like a little action in that. Like, oh my God, just I'm curious to see if Cornett ever can if we can utilize him that and just see how we can open up the floor in the offense.
Well, you mentioned Porzingis, and I do want to bring up Porzingis here in tangent with Cornett, because tonight, Kristaps Porzingis, I mean, this is just, we're reaching a point where, I mean, Kristaps, we're starting to, I was a little early on the train of he might be out of town. I was on that train at the beginning of the series after literally game 1. After game 1, I was like, oh, he's not available. He's all of a sudden ill. He's not available now at the most crucial time of the season. And then just from there on out, it's just built each game. I mean, literally each game. I mean, game 3 he had a fine outing, but ever since, I mean, really every other game, I mean, every game the Celtics have lost, and of course this game in which the Celtics won tonight, Kristaps Porzingis has been utterly horrendous. And that's what we're going to be talking about here, is just what do the Celtics do with Kristaps Porzingis? I think he's now, and it's not, I'm not asking necessarily in terms of the offseason right now, but just in this series. I mean, does he play again in this series? Because tonight, 12 minutes played, all came in the first half. And just breaking it down quarter by quarter here, Kristaps Porzingis played 7:35 in the first quarter. That's where he took all of his shots. So in the first quarter, he was 0 of 3 from the floor, 0 of 2 from 3 for Kristaps Porzingis. Did go to the free throw line twice, hit 1 of 2 free throws, 2 turnovers. So 1 point, 2 turnovers, 1 block, 1 foul, took 3 shots, missed all of them, played 7:35 in that first quarter. The second quarter, Kristaps Porzingis, he plays 4:28, doesn't take a shot attempt, and he's club a trillion out there. He has 1 rebound, 1 defensive rebound. Otherwise, he's a -4, and it's zeros across the board. And he only plays 12 minutes in this entire game, does not play the second half. And it was very evident that he wasn't going to play the second half by the way they were giving it out on the broadcast. It was like, oh, Kristaps Porzingis, he's sitting on the sideline to start the second half. And I'm going, 12 minutes played. He's looked absolutely awful up to this point. He's probably not coming out in the second half. And that's exactly what we saw transpire from Kristaps Porzingis. And then, of course, I'll bring this up too. Out of all the Celtics tonight, obviously the Celtics went on their run in the second half. So this is going to be skewed anyway, without Kristaps Porzingis. But Jaylen Brown tonight, plus 28 on the night. Al Horford, he's a plus 11. And these are all the starters. Derek White, he is a plus 26. Drew Holiday, he is a plus 23 tonight. And then go down to the bench, a plus 24 for Peyton Pritchard. And then Luke Cornett, we already mentioned his plus minus, a plus 20. So all these guys who play tonight in the pluses in terms of in the positive for plus minus, most of them over plus 20. Kristaps Porzingis, on the other hand, again, didn't play in that second half when the Celtics actually went on their run, but Kristaps Porzingis, a -12 tonight. for the Celtics. Everybody else was above a +10, a +20. The only person below a +20 who played legitimate minutes tonight was Al Horford. He was a +11. And then we have guys off the bench. Sam Hauser. He played 14 minutes. He was a dead even. And then everybody who played in garbage time, including Torrey Craig, who was in for a tiny stint. They all were a +1. But you just look at every single player who received bulk minutes, over a +20, +11 for Al Horford, and then Porzingis a -12. And the reason I bring this up again, I'll say it's going to be skewed because the Celtics went on the run in the second half, but it was trending terribly before that. I mean, I checked this at halftime, and it was much of the same. I mean, you had most of the lineup with around it was most of the lineup had around +7, +8, +10, somewhere around there, and the game was close. It was tied at halftime, but then Porzingis, I mean, he was in the minuses. I mean, he was in the negatives for plus minus. And I don't always like to look at plus minus, but I think it is. I think it can be a little indicative when your entire lineup is in the plus, and then you have one player who's in the minus. It's sometimes indicating, okay, when that player was out there, I mean, the team got cooked. And that's what happened with Porzingis tonight. He got cooked on the defensive end of the floor. He's been cooked on the defensive end of the floor in this series. And then offensively, he was a zilch for the Celtics. I mean, I think in game 6, it's going to be interesting to see how the Celtics manage him, if they even play him for the rest of the series. If that's maybe the end of his Celtics career, who knows? Or if they try to run this back with Porzingis again, at this point, you would have to think, okay, he's probably not going to start game 6, and it's going to be Cornet. But then again, with the status of these players and the contracts and just Joe Mazzulla and the Celtics staff being insistent on things working out over time, you could see another run with Porzingis out there. But from your perspective, what do the Celtics even do with Kristaps Porzingis for the rest of the series? Do they sit him out? Do they try to utilize him in game 6? Do they even start him? Do they even entertain that? Or is Porzingis just kind of a sunk cost for the Celtics in these playoffs right now?
I'm going to say that you don't. I think we can come to a consensus on this, like just not start him tomorrow, just because I think, you got to, I mean, not tomorrow, on Friday, but I think you just have to understand that right now Porzingis does not have that kind of that extra burst, that extra, endurance right now, and he's just not feeling well right now. And it's like, yeah, you feel bad. Oh, he's not gonna be able to play. Like I'm sure Joe Mazzulla was thinking about like, oh, we should get him in. We should see what can happen. But it's like I already said it before. There's already been plenty of evidence in the past couple of games to show why Porzingis shouldn't be getting as many minutes as he has, and it's evident. And it's just, and with Cornet giving this performance that he did, it's just like there was a change in how we looked. There was a change in our offense. There was a change in how we kind of moved out the ball. So it just makes sense right now to give Cornet that chance. And we have Porzingis. It's not like he's going anywhere. If you want to utilize him, maybe a little later in the second, or if you want to kind of give him a couple minutes here and there, and kind of have his minutes like kind of dispersed throughout the game. Unless I think that could be a possibility. I do think that maybe get him like hockey shifts. You know what I mean? Just throw him in there. Maybe he makes a good play, or he protects the rim, and you kind of give Cornet a rest, and then you throw Cornet back in. Like I think there's ways to utilize him, but I really don't think we can rely on Porzingis to give us a lot of minutes and really, really make a huge, like massive impact. But I don't think. But like you said it before too. There's also ways to kind of possibly hide him on the offensive end and use him in that aspect. So I think there's ways around it, but I really do think we have to give Cornet more of the attention right now.
Well, you mentioned, Porzingis and just the unreliability of Porzingis. That's been the biggest point for me, just this playoff run and his entire Celtics career. I mean, I was holding on for hope for most of the season, going, okay, I know the Celtics are putting him on ice, but if he's healthy in this playoff run, I mean, he can make a big impact to the Celtics. But 2 years, 2 playoff runs, a lot of data, a lot of games not played for Kristaps Porzingis. This is going in a direction of, all right, he's a 50-50 guy for me. Okay, he was not available for the majority of the playoffs last year, and now all of a sudden in the most crucial moment of this season, And in the most critical series right now against the New York Knicks, and which is still going on, Kristaps Porzingis is not available. He's simply not available, and availability is the best ability. That's just quite plain and simple. That's how it goes. I mean, if you're not available, you can't put up production. If you're not producing for a team, that gets into the conversation of, how valuable are you? I mean, we know how valuable Kristaps Porzingis can be when he's actually out on the floor producing for the Boston Celtics. However, when he's not out on the floor, I mean, the value just tanks. The value absolutely tanks, and the value has not been there this playoff run at all. I mean, aside from just him not being available, I mean, he played 12 minutes tonight. He played 14 minutes. I'm trying to think. In game one, he missed the entire second half, which he did tonight yet again. So that's two instances in this series where Kristaps Porzingis just misses the entire second half after starting. And then I believe in game two, he played 14 minutes. I believe in game three, he played maybe 18 minutes. And then just I just don't understand the rhythm with
No,
Kristaps Porzingis here.
I don't,
I
and
don't
that
understand the
impacts
illness either. And
a team too. Like when you have a guy that comes in maybe like 14ish minutes, and then he just kind of all of a sudden kind of leaves the game, and now you got to figure out how to kind of play offensively without him. It just kind of messes with that rhythm. It's like, oh, he's gone, he's here, he's gone, he's here. Like there needs to be more consistency within a lineup to kind of find success and see how to attack an offense. Because when you have Porzingis, you're going to attack slightly differently when you don't have him. So it just messes with that whole with the whole system, and just kind of doesn't give guys that uh I'm trying to think of a word, that confidence that we're gonna have someone in a lineup to rely on, like you said, reliability.
well, Porzingis, it's like you talk about his availability. I mean, the Celtics, I believe I heard a stat earlier today. It was the Celtics this season, I believe, played 26 games, maybe 25 or 26 games. It's one of those stats. Like, how do you not remember if it's one or the other, 25 or 26? 25 or 26 games the Celtics played this season with their top six healthy. So that's about a third of the season, nearly a fourth. I mean, it's almost a fourth of the season now. That's a smaller fraction than a third, but it's about a third of the season, in between a third and fourth of the season. The Celtics were actually fully healthy within their top six, and a huge player within that equation is Kristaps Porzingis. Obviously, the Celtics had other guys who were resting this season with Drew Holiday and Al Horford. And Al Horford wasn't playing back to backs along with Kristaps Porzingis, and they were holding Holiday out here and there, and he was dealing with injuries from time to time, as well as Jaylen Brown, White, Tatum, and Pritchard. They were the most durable players on the Celtics this year by far. Everybody
Mhm.
else had felt like they were dealing with an injury at some point in the season, but you just look at the availability of the top six of the Celtics. I understand, yes, some rest in there, self-inflicted wounds by rest when it comes to the amount of games played by the top six, but it's still just, even with the rest, that's not a ton of games with everybody healthy. That's
Yeah.
nearly a fourth of the season. It's about a third, a fourth or a third of the season, around there, 25 games of the season, and that's, to me, I mean, you talk about the reliability of Kristaps Porzingis. The fact that the Celtics cannot rely on him right now in the NBA playoffs tells me he's gone this summer. He's
Yeah.
absolutely gone. He's on an expiring $30 million deal. You can find teams out there who are either willing to eat his money, $30 million off the books, or convince themselves, hey, we need a big guy like Kristaps Porzingis, as the Celtics did a couple of years ago, obviously, on the trade market when they traded away Marcus Smart, and they tried to trade away Brogdon at first, didn't quite happen, but then Gallinari and Muscala and a bunch of picks in those deals. The Celtics convinced themselves on Kristaps Porzingis. It's possible another team does, but moving into his 30s, he's just not a durable player. He's a 50-50 guy. You can't rely on him. And
Yeah.
this is two playoff runs in a row where Kristaps Porzingis, in the most critical moment of the season, is simply not available. And like I said, if you're not available, you cannot produce. And if you cannot
Nope.
produce, how valuable are you? We know how valuable Kristaps Porzingis can be, but if he's not
Mhm.
actually on the floor, he cannot actually produce the value of what he is theorized to produce for this Celtics team. So I just think looking into the future. It's possible Kristaps Porzingis has played his last
I
minute,
agree.
his last game as a Boston Celtic. That could have been tonight out on the TD Garden floor, because it's definitely possible the Celtics sit him out the rest of this series because of his illness. I don't see a point in trying to push him further. I mean, I guess, you're trying to win games, but right now we're looking at the box score, we're looking at the film and going, he's a near negative for the Celtics. I mean, he can't hit shots, he can't take advantage of mismatches. He's getting cooked on the defensive end of the floor. I don't really see a positive silver lining within the game of Porzingis right now. And
Mhm.
therefore, if he's dealing with the illness, the upper respiratory illness still, I don't see why the Celtics should continuously send him out there if he's a constant negative, if he's dealing with an illness. And there are just better options like Luke Cornett, we're talking about
Yeah.
tonight, who could play over Kristaps Porzingis. I think it's quite possible that he could be done this season, and we could have seen the last of Kristaps Porzingis not only in this season, but with the Boston Celtics in general. But just from your perspective, Andrew, looking ahead at the offseason with Kristaps Porzingis, what do you believe is going to happen with Kristaps? I'm obviously very firm on the fact the Celtics could move on from him because of the expiring deal, because of the availability issues, and just the fact that he's not really producing for this team right now, among the whole luxury tax implications. But after this playoff performance, not only in this series but last series against the Magic, where do the Celtics actually go with Kristaps Porzingis beyond this series? I mean, this series we're talking about, hey, he might not start Game 6, he might not even play, but after that,
Mhm.
where do the Celtics actually go with Kristaps in the offseason?
Yeah. I just one real quick thing I just want to say, like, regarding Porzingis and like his, why he might be struggling too. It's like when you and for those that have played basketball out there, and when you play basketball, sometimes you have someone on your team who you haven't played with as much, and he's not feeling well, and it's in the locker room, and you know that he's not playing the best he can. Like, you lose a little, unfortunately, and it's just inevitable. Sometimes you lose a little trust in a guy, right? There's less, opportunities to give him a ball in the post. Like, you're like, oh, he's playing a little weak today. I'm not gonna give him the ball in the post, and that impacts the offense. And you're like, so, and it's inevitable. Like, you Celtics fans out there, I understand. This team has great chemistry. This team is amazing together. They work well together. But from a human perspective, you want to win, and sometimes these guys aren't helping you. You're not going to give them the ball as much, and it's going to impact them. And it's just going to take them out of the game, and just make them not as effective. So that's something. I mean, if you want to touch on that too, I'm more than welcome to. But from a Porzingis standpoint, just yeah, go ahead if you want to say something about that.
No, I'll say this. First of all, folks, nobody's gotten the update yet. We are completely delayed here on this broadcast. So if we have some moments where we seem delayed, or something goes on, that's what's happening tonight. But I'm just, just throwing it out there. I don't know the quality of the stream on my end right now. I just know I'm a little delayed here on the
A
broadcast
little,
tonight.
yeah.
Uh, but I will say, just I want to bring up some more just and well, actually, let me touch on this conversation before I go into another topic here. Kristaps Porzingis, when you talk about the confidence in Kristaps Porzingis, sometimes I look at things from a, just an we're outsiders, right? We're outsiders.
Mhm.
We're their fans, observers, analysts, whatever you want to call us, on the outside looking in. We can only relate to our own experiences, but we're outsiders. If we're sitting there thinking, okay, Luke Cornett, we trust him more than Kristaps Porzingis right now, and we're just appalled by the way Kristaps Porzingis is playing right now, you got to
Mhm.
think players in the locker room and coaches are thinking the exact same way,
Yeah.
because they might ultimately believe in Kristaps Porzingis more than us just because they're going to ride with their guy and the guy they know in their locker room. But at the same time, it's not as if those thoughts aren't in the back of their heads going, all right, Kristaps, it's been a little rough this series. It's been very, very rough this series.
Yeah.
And
You
so I just think from that perspective, certainly
you
that's where
st
Kristaps is falling from grace, probably just a little bit within the locker
yeah.
room, and
You
not only
start getting a
locker room,
little
but just the front office, ownership, everybody right now.
You start getting a little frustrated, and guys want to win, and sometimes it ends in that scenario. And I know you asked me about what I see him in the offseason. I just want to say this: it's like Porzingis is unavailable. He's been struggling. He's not reliable, and that's the exact reason why we traded away Rob Williams, right? So to think that some trade isn't going to happen,
Yep.
or to think that
The
Porzingis
100%.
is going to stay. I mean, there's a very good chance that we move on from him because we need someone that's reliable, and Brad Stevens has already made that decision. So there is and you said Kemba in the post game before. I mean, Isaiah is hip, like there's a lot of these things where he's like he doesn't play around with the injuries, and he makes sure to he's a smart GM. He makes sure to move on from things when he sees that the risk is not outweighing the benefit, or
The writing is on the
yeah,
wall.
right, when there's right on the
Writing's
wall, and you gotta be ahead of these
I'll
things,
say
because if
this
you're
too,
not,
is like it just he's like a Brad Stevens is also kind of a disciple of other GMs in Boston, most notably Bill Belichick with the New England Patriots. I mean, him and Bill,
right.
they hung out. I mean, they've hung out behind the scenes before. And Bill Belichick, one of the biggest traits in Bill Belichick that made the Patriots so good over time, and no, it was unfortunately not drafting players. I mean, that was
No,
I mean,
that's
after a certain year, maybe 2014, 2015, you end up with Chandler Jones at a certain point. Maybe after a certain point, Bill Belichick couldn't draft worth the damn. But in terms of cutting players before they petered out and didn't have any value whatsoever, or not paying players and really getting rid of players at the right time, Bill Belichick was just a mastermind at that. And so far, Brad Stevens has been the same, because
mhm.
you could argue Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon, and Grant Williams and Robert Williams, they all peaked with the Celtics so far. I mean, in their careers, they've had better times with the Celtics than they've had anywhere else outside of the Boston Celtics organization. And within that, that is kind of due to the fact, obviously, the Celtics, their culture, but the stars that are in place, the coaching staff and everything that the Celtics organization offers. Outside of that, it's just the fact that Marcus Smart, he had a lot of miles on his body after 9 years in the NBA and playing the tough physical way in which he had as a guard, won Defensive Player of the Year in 2022. I mean, that was the peak Marcus Smart. Robert Williams, you mentioned it. Brad Stevens has already made moves like this where Kemba Walker, Robert Williams, we can't rely on you. You're not available. You're not durable. We need to move on and find somebody else who's going to be available and durable and able to produce at a consistent rate for more than 60 games in a season. Because these guys, some of the other, Robert Williams, he's the prime example. He's only played 35 games with the Trailblazers since leaving the Celtics, since being traded to the Blazers 2 years ago. 35 games. Imagine if the Celtics had that on their roster right now. I mean, they'd be going nowhere with Robert Williams, essentially. And that's just heartbreaking, because Robert Williams, I mean, deserves. I mean, he's a very hard worker and
He's
deserves
just a talent.
to be healthy
Mhm.
and have a shot in the NBA. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the talent of
Like,
himself
just
is just
for the NBA to just, like,
it's one of those what if stories with Robert Williams. Is what if
agree.
what if he could play more than 60 games in a season, basically, and his
Mhm.
and his most games played in a season is 61. But Robert Williams, Kemba Walker, but just those other players you mentioned, that were on the way out in 2023. I mean, Brogdon. You'd argue
Right.
that he peaked with the Celtics, sixth man of the year with the Celtics. Hasn't done much since then. He's been injured. He's been on ice with the Wizards, with the Blazers. And then you have, Grant Williams. He tears his ACL. That's kind of a freak thing. We didn't really want to pay him. But again, Grant Williams, he's not really worth his contract. $15
No.
million a year. I don't think Grant Williams is worth $15 million a year. And you let go of him and Robert Williams, we talked about, and Marcus Smart. I mean, again, the durability with him, he's not played a ton of games
No.
since leaving the
And then when
Celtics.
you add the two together and mix them together with the contract and with that, durability, it's like
And Marcus
it's a
Smart
it's
too,
it's a
$20 million.
no-brainer.
He's owed $21 million next year, somewhere around that number. And that's a player where you're looking at it going, okay, he's not really worth that salary. So that's another
No.
player you're kind of looking at going, all right, well, kind of moved off of him at the right time. But I do want to mention here, And well, I should say, and in relation with Kristaps Porzingis, he's going to be in the same boat. He is he's not durable. He's a 50-50 guy. You can't rely on him. If the move is there, Brad Stevens is going to make it, and I think this summer he's actually going to be pushing to make it because Kristaps is on an expiring deal. He has availability concerns, and just the production level has been utterly horrendous. And not only this year's playoffs, but last year he wasn't available either. And he was a better producer when he was in the lineup last playoffs, but it wasn't for a very long time, and it's the same thing this season. And it's just very unfortunate to see from Kristaps Porzingis, knowing when he is on the court, he's a very valuable player to the Celtics, but just the fact he cannot stay on court, and when he's on court, when he's not healthy, I mean, it's just some horrendous results. But I'll say this. A guy who didn't put up horrendous results tonight was our player spotlight, Luke Cornett. We were talking about him earlier. I want to bring up a couple more stats on Luke Cornett tonight. Maybe not even stats, but just some general screenshots, some fun stuff here for Luke Cornett. First of all, here are the stats. Top 10 in net rating in the 2024-25 NBA season. Luke Cornett, number 7. The rest, all Oklahoma City Thunder players. This is why net rating can sometimes be a little misleading, is, obviously, if you're looking at a guy like Jalen Williams or Kenrich Williams on here, Isaiah Joe, you're not sitting there going, oh, if they go to the, say they're on the Utah Jazz, their net rating, it's going to carry them. It's going to carry the Utah Jazz. They're going to be phenomenal with the Jazz. Like, no, all of these players' net ratings, they're good because they're on good teams. I mean, specifically the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're just a really good team, and all these guys are reaping the benefits from their lineup being ultra good and that net rating. But Luke Cornett, still very impressive to be 7th in the NBA in net rating this season in terms of all individuals and NBA players who are eligible for this stat. Luke Cornett, number 7, 14.6 net rating in the 24-25 NBA season. Now, I will say this I believe is for the entire season. Obviously not specified, but I believe it's the entire season, including the NBA playoffs, if I'm not mistaken here. But Luke Cornett, regardless, I mean, he's going to be up in that upper echelon category of net rating this season. So there's some stats for you right there on screen for Luke Cornett, and just look at some of the net ratings there. His on-off plus 8.2 there. True shooting 69% for Luke Cornett. Points per game 5.6, but his net rating 14.6 out there. But we also have some fun tweets to pull up here. And this one, Bill Russell jumping over a teammate just to block a shot. And that teammate, of course, is John Havlicek, Hondo. Got to give respect to Hondo, of course, the late, great John Havlicek. Bill Russell jumping over Hondo to block this shot right here. But Tanya Ray Fox, Luke Cornett on a random Wednesday in May. Completely accurate. I mean,
a crazy
Luke
photo.
Cornett in Game 5 of this series against the Knicks. I mean, this is one of those photos that you look at and you go, "How have I never seen this before? Is this doctored?
Right.
Is this?
It
doesn't look like it, but
it doesn't even feel real.
it's like, how is this not? How do we not see this more often? How do we? Like, it should be an iconic photo in NBA history. I mean, it's not the prettiest of photos, the prettiest basketball photo, but it's a more insane photo more than anything else.
That
I'll say
right there
that,
that was the first time when they learned to get out of the way of the shot blocker. That was where it started, I bet.
See, that's kind of like the details, all some of the little things in basketball that we've certainly come a long way on in time.
Right.
Certainly come a long way. But this one, this is just at the end of the night. Luke Cornett, Josh Hart. It's kind of, Luke Cornett and Josh Hart. Luke Cornett,
I love it.
He's the one who bloodied Josh Hart earlier. Now it was totally incidental. And Josh Hart, he was kind of unlucky. Josh Hart was driving. Luke Cornett was contesting. And Josh Hart kind of ran into the elbow of Luke Cornett. But there were a couple of occasions. I mean, Luke Cornett accidentally hit Josh Hart in the face again later in the game. That's not this occasion, but this was just right after halftime. And Luke Cornett just playing peacemaker here and just kind of riling up the troops. But yep, that's certainly. Oh, and we showed this earlier on the program, but this was Josh Hart. Luke Cornett bloodied up Josh Hart tonight. So don't come up in Luke Cornett's lane. Josh Hart learned the hard way, and of course, Luke Cornett
Sharp
just
elbows. Got
to pull this one out again tonight. I mean, this one has to be AI. I'll say this. I I found this on Twitter. I apologize to the person who posted it on Twitter. I don't have the hat tip here, but this has to be AI. It's too pristine. It's too pristine of a Luke Cornett photo to pass up on. And I'll show this. This next one is not Luke Cornett related, but just in terms of the entirety of the night for the Celtics, Jaylen Brown, a career high 12 assists on
No, that
the night. And
that
that
is
is awesome.
awesome.
That is awesome to see, knowing Jason Tatum, when if he's out of the lineup, Jaylen Brown can come in and be that superstar, and not only be a superstar in terms of scoring, but be that superstar facilitator. And that was Jaylen Brown tonight with a career high 12 assists. And we do have some news here, real quick. The Golden State Warriors have been eliminated from the NBA playoffs. So
Wow.
the Golden State Warriors fall to the Minnesota Timberwolves. It was looking that way
Yeah.
for most of the game, but it's officially official now. The Golden State Warriors no longer in the NBA playoffs. And we do have I do want to pull up another one here going forward, and we'll talk about JB here in a second. But this one's from Sean Grandy. This one coming up on screen in just a few seconds here. So the stat we're about to look at, this is kind of have to explain it because there's going to be a lot of text on screen here in a couple of seconds if we can get it pulled up here real quick. This next tweet is going to be from Sean Grandy, and this is going to be about the Knicks and their scoring differential in their playoff series, and it's going to go along with the theme of, how are the Celtics, how are they not only ahead but winning this series, right? How are they not winning this series? So here we go. Just pulling that up on screen real quick. This is from Sean Grandy here. This tweet. For the second straight year, the Knicks have won home game for a trip to the Eastern Conference Finals. That despite getting outscored by 7 points a game in the series. A win Friday, or especially Monday, for New York would likely land them on this list as well. And here is the list. So it's not quite a completed list, but you can see here, Boston, they've been a part of it on one end or the other. And hey, my city up in here, 1958, St. Louis. Don't forget about the St. Louis Hawks out here. But here's the list. Worst scoring differential winning a best of 7 series. So obviously an incomplete list with the 2025 Eastern Conference Semifinals on there. This series is not yet over, but you see some of the other ones on here. 1959 Western Conference Finals. Minneapolis defeats again my hometown, St. Louis here, 4-2. Minus 43 in the series. So minus 43. The Knicks so far are a minus 35 in this series in terms of their overall
Crazy.
just totals, just plus minus 35 for New York, and they're up 3-2 in the series. And certainly if the Knicks don't, win the next game or the next two games, win game 6 or 7 by a good margin, they will certainly find themselves on this list. And just, take a quick second just to look it over here. And, again, the Celtics on here a couple times. 1987, the Celtics defeated the Pistons in a 7-game series where they were outscored by 26 points. I'll bring up too, this can be a little misleading sometimes because, you could have a great game. Like, say, the Oklahoma City Thunder, I was going to bring that up for their net ratings. The Thunder, they have those great net ratings, but in round 1 against the Grizzlies, they saw a game where they defeated the Grizzlies by 51 points. That's obviously going to affect something. I mean, you could win a game or you can win a series in 5 games. As you see on this list, most of them are 6 or 7 game series, but you can win a series in 5 games and say you win each game by 1 point, but then in the game in which you lost, I mean, you lose by 50 points, then all of a sudden your net is going to be a minus 46. So, just some interesting stats there to point out. But I do want to talk about this last one real quick. Jaylen Brown recorded a career high 12 assists tonight. And this is going to be our last topic here on Postgame before we close off the show. Just, Andrew, your thoughts on Jaylen Brown tonight, because Jaylen Brown, I will say this. Jaylen Brown, well, another player we didn't highlight tonight, and I want to bring up his line, Derek White. Derek White started this
Yeah.
game out extremely hot. 34 points on the night, 9 of 11 from the free throw line, 7 of 13 from the 3-point line, 9 of 16 from the field. We could have easily handed Derek White the player of the game tonight, but Luke Cornett with the 7 blocks and just his impact in the third quarter could not be denied for what he was able to do for his skill set tonight. But Derek White, he was phenomenal, 34 points on the night. He certainly saved the Celtics early and then throughout. But Jaylen Brown, he was 9 of 17. Not the not the highest of volume type of game for Jaylen Brown. Only 17 shots. 3 of 5 from three. 5 of 8 from the free throw line. The Celtics, they were just missing free throws all over the place last game. That was something that certainly you'd like to see the team better in. But Brown, 26 points, 12 assists, again, a career high tonight in assists, but 8 rebounds as well, 2 offensive, 6 defensive. Only 2 turnovers. Only 2 turnovers for Jaylen Brown in 37 minutes. But just looking at Brown and Derek White, specifically those two as facilitators, I those two are going to be the top main facilitators for the Celtics moving forward into the future of next season when Jason Tatum is inevitably out of the lineup for likely the whole year. I know people are going, 8-9 months, but let's face it, he's going to miss the entirety of next year, and it's going to be the Jaylen Brown show, but it's also going to be there's going to be a lot of Derek White and Peyton Pritchard as we saw tonight. But just from a facilitating standpoint, what did you think of the performances from Jaylen Brown and Derek White tonight, and what could that say about their ability in potentially leading this Celtics team to success in the future when Jason Tatum is out?
Yeah, for Brown, I was honestly a little concerned about tonight. I was a little nervous. Are they gonna send kind of guys his way and force him to create? And is he gonna have turnovers? He didn't today. He had 2 turnovers tonight. I mean, and 2 turnovers with the volume that he had, the ball and the amount of assists he had. I mean, his assist to turnover ratio, 2 turnovers, it's fine. So I was very happy with his ability to kind of let the offense come
you mentioned
through.
the assist to turnover ratio. It was a negative before this game.
Right.
So it was a
right.
negative. I mean, he was in the negatives, right? In terms of
Yeah. I wasn't sure.
he had more turnovers than assists. Now this performance, 12 assists to 2 turnovers, that assist to turnover ratio. I mean, if he can keep that up, that is some big time stuff for Jaylen Brown.
Huge. And like we said, I mean, he knew when to give up the ball. He knew when to hold the ball, when to attack a mismatch. I mean, he had one play where someone kicked it to the corner and he had a nice and one. He could have shot it, right? But he decided to give an and one and an extra pass, swing the ball. So I liked his unselfishness tonight. And I think that when you have a leader that is unselfish, when you have a leader that, may not be able to take care of the ball as well as some other guys, and when he can step that up, that is an example and shows other players that, hey, I'm here to improve myself. I'm here to give you guys the best possible game that I can produce. So that was awesome to see. But I also just think like his ability, he was very well. He just controlled the pace a lot of times, and he knew when to attack, and he knew when to, kind of take it out, when to give it up. So I was very happy to see that. And then Derek White, Derek White is such a rock, man, for this team and such a, consistent performer. I think he did have a couple games where early in the series where he was kind of shooting a lot of threes and kind of jacking it occasionally. Like I think you could agree with that. Like there was some, like you get a rebound off the rim and the clock resets and you get a kick out to, and there's a kick out to Derek White, but he had a hand in his face in a shot. It's like you can get a better look than that, and that impacts the offense. But I just like that Derek White is consistent with his 3. I mean, he shoots a 3 and he shoots it. He doesn't shy away from it, and that obviously does help him because then he can attack closeouts. People think they're going to shoot, and he can get into the paint and get kick out. So yeah, sometimes he takes some bad shots, but he hits a high percentage of them, and it just kind of forces the defense to collapse on him, to close out on him, and he can facilitate from that way. So I think if with us needing Derek White to produce on the offensive end, it then creates more opportunities for him to be a facilitator and help the Celtics kind of flow in offense.
Yeah, and he's going to be, to me, he's going to be just as big to the equation for the Celtics without, obviously, Jason Tatum moving forward because, the big question, for the Celtics is just, what are they going to look like next year? And I think certainly Derek White. We're talking a lot about Jaylen Brown being the guy next year, but Derek White, I think, is going to have to take a bigger role within the team as well in just terms of
Yeah,
his facilitating.
you
Maybe
need
not so
point.
much
Yeah,
scoring, but I
yeah.
mean, well, yeah, you're right. You need points.
I mean, you
I agree
also
that
do need
he's
it
not going
from
to be
him. Like,
the all-star scorer, but
sure,
in
yeah.
terms of
I don't think
facilitating.
that's. Yeah, yeah, right, right. And if he's a little more aggressive on offense, so he can facilitate. But no, I agree. He does need to be that next guy that facilitates. I think personally, a big guy that could step up from a facilitating standpoint maybe is like kind of a Pritchard. I like his ball
That would
control.
be the next step within Pritchard's game is becoming
Yeah,
that
no,
elite
I
level
I really
facilitator
I really
because
think so. And I think he does a great job at. I mean, I'd like to see his, like his turnovers and his numbers. I highly doubt it's very high because he does a great job at controlling the ball, controlling the pace, slowing down when they need to, speeding up when they have to. Like I like Pritchard's game overall. Obviously, he's a very talented player, but his ability, he's good at just kind of calming down the offense, not panicking, and making the right play. And that's something the Celtics needed in these other games. And I would have liked to see him maybe possibly get even more, opportunities and more minutes in the series and just see what he could have produced. But I really do see Pritchard. Hopefully you know how he does that in the offseason. He has all the guys, uh, come guard him, force him to play to
yeah,
score.
yeah.
Let's see if he can
No,
find a way
hey,
to. Let's see
we're
if
on
he
this
can.
program right now. We'll shout out P. Shout out P. Hey man, we'll come guard you. We'll come rebound for
Yeah,
you.
we'll come guard
We're the
you.
Celtics Talk
We'll
Weekly.
we'll
Shoot
stand
some
help
content,
side.
some podcasts, some
Yeah,
interviews. Let's
yeah.
do this.
We'll stand help side. We'll force you to make some offensive decisions and make some passes that maybe you don't typically need. That's what he needs to focus on. I agree in the offseason, and maybe he'll change his schemes up this
For,
offseason and work
for
more on the
Pritchard, it is
offensive.
100% about going downhill, getting to the rack, getting to the rim, finishing around the rim, upping his point total in that way. If he still has
Yeah,
another level to go up to, if he
I
becomes a
agree.
great finisher in the league and a great driver, I mean, that's when Pritchard, you could start talking about all-star with Peyton Pritchard because
Seriously,
he has the mid-range game down, he has the three-point line down, he can soar. And both of those areas, it's not like Peyton Pritchard is reaping off of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and the benefits of them. He is creating his own shot
he
in the
is. He
mid-range. He
is.
is creating his own shot on the perimeter. And just the next step of his game is being able to get downhill, finish at the rim,
Yeah,
get himself to the free throw line, extra points in that way, but as well as the facilitating aspect of
yeah.
his game. I think he's
And
an underrated facilitator just because I think facilitating isn't what he's asked to do. So I think if he
yeah,
was asked to do that a little bit more, he would be seen as more of a facilitator than he is right now, and more of a playmaker than he is right now. So I do think he's underrated in that aspect, but it's still if he can get that part of his game really squared away next season, especially with Jason Tatum out of the lineup, and then if he can get the downhill attack, the finishing ability and the ability to get to the line, if he can get that
yeah.
all in a line for get to the line and he can align all those too many
Yeah,
lines
yeah.
here.
A lot of
But if
lines.
Peyton Pritchard can improve in those areas next year, he is going to be even better of a player than he was this season, which
Such
is
an
saying a
important
lot
piece.
considering he was sixth man of the year this year in
Yeah,
24
and
25. I mean,
I do
that's
think yeah, I agree. I think sometimes Pritchard he'll get downhill, but he'll find himself kinda, you know, how can he
no, he
create in that
struggles
area?
against more
He'll get
sizable
he'll
teams.
get
He
down low, and
does.
then it's like it's tough to kind of pass out of it. He gets deep sometimes
No, he'll
in the
get real deep
trees,
into a defense and then just kind of,
and he's
you
like,
know,
I don't
I
know.
compare it
Yeah,
like every player does this, but like the wraparound when you drive and then you wrap around
yeah.
like
He needs
away from the
the
rim.
Nash
That's like
dribble.
the Bob
Yeah,
Cousy's like that's the wraparound. He always does the
the
wraparound.
Nash. Yeah, they call
Yeah,
it the Nash dribble. He needs to kind of implement that a little and just find a little more a feel in that area. And I think that'll be that's a good place for him to go.
right. And we do have some more quotes here. We were talking about Jaylen Brown. And we were talking about Pritchard and White and Brown and their ability to take over some of the facilitation with Jason Tatum out of the lineup next year. But we have this quote from Jaylen Brown earlier this evening. Well, not too earlier. I mean, this was not too long ago at the post-game presser. Jaylen Brown on his role leading the Celtics franchise after Jason Tatum's Achilles tear. Just be who I am. And I think that's it. Just be myself, come out, be aggressive, and get it done in multiple ways. We're a team. We've always been a team. The goal is just to lead and be myself. So that's from Jaylen Brown tonight. Just quite frankly, I mean, Jaylen Brown knows the assignment. He understands, okay, Jason Tatum's out, next man up. That next man is me. I know what Jason Tatum is capable of. He knows what himself, Jaylen Brown, he knows what he's capable of, and he knows that he can reach the same heights as Tatum on some occasions. And Jaylen Brown already tonight, I mean, come on, his performance, 12 assists, a career high, an assist for JB in the first game where he takes over in Tatum's absence. He's a plus 28, 26 points on the night. We talked about the assist to turnover ratio, 12 assists to 2 turnovers, absolutely spectacular. 8 rebounds as well tonight. Shot 52.9% from the field, 9 of 17, 3 of 5 from 3. That's 60%. Then from the free throw line, you'd like to see it a little bit better. But the fact that he got to the free throw line 8 times, that was impressive for Jaylen Brown. And he only shot 5 of 8 from the free throw line. But hey, getting to the line, getting those attempts, that is what is important there. And that is what's crucial. And, obviously the makes, that's important as well. But hey, if you get to the line, that's kind of the first step in terms of free throws and the advantage you can gain for your team. But this next this next photo here, this is outside of the TD Garden. Only on the brink of death can you feel the most alive.
Wow.
And that is certainly a phrase and something that can be brought out right now with this Celtics team. Only on the brink of death.
Man.
The brink of elimination. Only on the brink of death and elimination can you feel the most alive. Can you feel the most rejuvenated? Can you feel the most just, motivation, quite frankly. It's motivation, it's energy. This Celtics team, it certainly felt like they had a different energy to themselves in that second half tonight than in any other game in this series. Maybe game 3 you can point out that was a must-win game 3, but tonight at the TD Garden, the Celtics riding on the edge, right? I think the Celtics team likes to be underdogs. I think they like to ride on the edge. I don't think they had any fun being the favorites all season long. I think they kind of like this spot in some ways. But I'll point this out. Outside the Garden, I don't know who this is, but he has a number 30 jersey on. Is that a Gershon Yabusele jersey? Is that a Sam Hauser jersey? Any of those guys?
It's a good question.
I'm trying to think of other 30s. For the Celtics here, because that 30 jersey, that's kind of a rare sighting. You see the Celtics number 30, just in terms of the Celtics jersey numbers.
Probably a Hauser, but that's a
probably
deep
a Hauser.
Pull. It's a bold pull with the Hauser jersey,
Well,
but,
that's what I'm saying. It's either Hauser or Gershon Yabusele. It could be Gerald Green back in 2016-17. Brandon Bass. Does look
Brandon
like a newer
Bass.
jersey.
That'd be.
Does look like a newer jersey.
Something.
Brandon Bass would be a little insane.
A Tim Thomas jersey, but a Tim Thomas jersey, but actually a Boston Celtics jersey. Who knows?
Rasheed Wallace maybe on the list. I'm looking at the list now. ML Carr, famous number 30 for the Boston Celtics back in the 1980s, multiple time champion for the C's, 2-time champion to be exact. ML Carr in 81 and 84. Cedric Maxwell, I'm looking on the list here. Cedric Maxwell, he has number 31 retired in the rafters, but he actually wore number 30 for the Celtics from 1978 to 1979. Could be him. Who knows?
Say Gerald Green. Gerald Green.
Yeah, Gerald Green. Get your nubs up. Get your nubs up.
Gerald Wallace.
Green with the nubs. But it could be Rasheed Wallace as well. But that 30 jersey, kind of a rare pull. But I have no idea who this is. But hey,
I love it.
Hop on for an interview, a podcast. We're all game here at Celtics Talk Weekly. Anybody in that crowd, pull them out here. We'll interview them. I'm all good with that.
Love that mindset.
I am all good with that. But that is going to do it here for us tonight on the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. And of course, the Boston Celtics. This was not Andrew. My spirits are a little lifted right now, knowing
they 100%. They really are.
I mean, Kornet had himself a career night. The Celtics win a second game in this series. They don't allow the Knicks to come into their home floor at the Garden and
Garden was electric.
and eliminate them to go to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 30 years for the New York Knicks. I mean, it was just spirit. It was a spirit-lifting performance for the Boston Celtics after what happened to Jason Tatum and what happened in Game 4 and just all the collapses we've seen in this series. I'm more than just a little bit happy that we get to come on here for yet another post game. I mean, this was also about the extension of post game this season. This is not going to be our last post game of the 24-25 season, and maybe even Game 6. Who knows what happens there? But maybe that one isn't the last one either. This one could have very well been the last one. However, it was not, as the Boston Celtics take out the New York Knicks 127-102 at the TD Garden in Game 5 of the 2025 Eastern Conference Semifinals. The Celtics get it done in an elimination game on their home floor. The Celtics now trailing 3-2 in this best-of-7 series against the New York Knicks in the conference semifinals. Game 6 will be at Madison Square Garden, I believe, on Friday. Might need to fact check me on that one, but I'm pretty sure it's every other day at this point in time.
Yep, Friday.
It will be Friday at MSG. The Boston Celtics will be fending off elimination yet again. And if the Celtics win that game, we have ourselves a Game 7 at the TD Garden. And that will likely be on Sunday between the Knicks and the Celtics. But the Celtics do have to win that Game 6 first. However, we will have you guys covered for that Game 6 at MSG as we did here tonight for Game 5 and for the rest of the Celtics playoffs so far and the regular season as well. But that is going to do it for us here tonight on the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. Alongside of me, of course, Andrew Quinn. I am your host, Seamus Zarlingo. We got to get the music rocking here. We got to get the rock music. Come on, bring out the rock music. Oh, yeah, baby. Bring out the rock. It's time to bring out the rock music tonight. All right, there we go. I know we were forgetting something. Usually Franco's out here queuing up the audio.
Franco stays locked in.
Of course. But that's going to do it here for us tonight on the Celtics Talk Weekly postgame show. I am your host, Seamus Zarlingo. Alongside of me tonight, Andrew Quinn. Of course, the Boston Celtics close out the New York Knicks 127-102. We will have you guys covered for Game 6 coming up on Friday. But tonight, the Boston Celtics, they take care of business and force yet another game on the season, another post game coming up on the horizon. But as I always say, folks, thank you all for watching, and go Celtics.